In our last video, we introduced the Creality K2 Plus Combo we got from geekbuying.com, a versatile 3D printer that impressed us with its balanced performance across various features. We were able to compare it to many of our existing printers. We took a tour of all the hardware and software in this most complete package. But how do our prints benefit from all this tech and ecosystem? Let's see how this behemoth handles multicolor prints, challenging designs, and more in our continued exploration of the Creality K2 Plus Combo. I'm Gergo, and you are watching Gergo Print 3D, the YouTube channel where my little nephew and I have a blast with cutting-edge technology to tackle fun projects and make all the mistakes so you don't have to. Just as all our previous videos, this too comes with curated, translation-ready subtitles and chapter markers for your viewing pleasure. Recap: from its massive 350 cube build volume to its Core X5 motion system with closed-loop stepper motors, multiple cameras, and fully temperature-controlled chamber, the K2 Plus from Creality is packed with advanced tech. We covered its unboxing process, the most involved yet, simple assembly, and initial prints like the 3D Benchy in just 16 minutes. While the setup had a few hiccups resolved by a firmware update, the printer's design and functionality stood out as both beginner-friendly and highly serviceable. If you missed it, be sure to check out our detailed breakdown before continuing. But what is all this technology good for? How do these impressive features translate into print speed and, even more importantly, print quality? There's a lot to like here, but also some puzzles we haven't fully solved yet, more than the monocolor Benchy. After printing the pre-sliced single-color 3D Benchy, I was eager to see how this machine does color change. I installed Creality Print 6 on my computer, then painted and sliced a 150% oversized version of my favorite test model, the keychain whistle. I used all colors, but the height-based coloring made it a quick print to observe the CFS in action. After the initial bed leveling, the printer loads the black filament and purges enough to make sure none of any previous filament in the nozzle paints this one. Then the text is printed. Pretty good first layer, by the way. The tool head quickly bumps into the left side of the gantry. This is where the little knob is, which engages the filament cutter. The CFS then retracts the black, loads the red, and 2 more purging cycles are carried out before printing the rest of the first layer with the red. The colors are cleverly painted in the opposite order in the next layer, having the red already loaded. The rest of the print continues with just 4 more filament changes to complete the whistle in less than 20 minutes. It would have taken half this time to print a single color version of the same model. Most poop, but just by a little. Our next multicolor print was this Snoopy figure, downloaded for free from Creality Cloud thanks to the premium subscription included with the printer. Notice we can get away with minimal filament changes here as well, since the color and face details are concentrated in a small area. Yet, the black and white combination was a great way to test for color bleed, which was basically non-existent with the default purge settings. The print-to-waste ratio wasn't great though. Even when printing 5 of them at once, the K2 produced 3 times as much purge waste as the weight of the useful parts were. The trendy knitted surface helps hide blemishes, but unlike our experience with the Kobra 3, the purge tower had no issues staying upright. Creality Print is a heavily skinned version of Orca Slicer, which is actually a good thing in the sense that it has feature parity with Orca. However, it took me a few minutes to get oriented because they inexplicably mirrored the entire UI. Everything you'd normally find on the left is now on the right, and vice versa. Anyway, overall, it was a successful first color print. Most friendly errors and false alarms. So it was successful, far more successful than our first attempt at these axolotls. We slightly reduced their size and increased the layer height to minimize color changes, then set out to print 5 of them in a batch. Everything went smoothly until the 4th or 5th color change. Then a whole slew of errors appeared, all likely stemming from the same root cause, a supposed clog or jam in the extruder. After retrying a few times, the printer eventually resumed printing, but with the wrong color, so we had to cancel the job. That said, I have to give Creality credit. The error log is well implemented and their troubleshooting suggestions were actually useful. Following their guidance, I took apart the extruder, which turned out to be a relatively easy task. This toolhead is very serviceable. The instructions are actually printed right on the extruder itself, under the magnetically removable cover. However, I found no jam or clog. It was a false alarm, most likely caused by an oversensitive clock sensor. After reassembling the extruder, we restarted the exact same print job, which passed the previous failure point and completed successfully. I did notice slight color cross-contamination between the black and light pink sections here. This was with the default flush multiplier of 1.3, which already produces about 15% more waste than my Anycubic Kobra 3 at its default settings. As you can see, we used the prime tower and had flush to infill also enabled. In hindsight, maybe that flush to infill setting was what caused the black to show through. We are still learning the nuances of multicolor printing. Before we dive in our experience with a different type of filament, please take a moment to let YouTube know if you're enjoying this video. And if you're really liking it, consider subscribing to see where we take this and our other 3D printers next. Thanks for your support. Pet peeves and pet G. So next, we printed this modular egg dispenser out of white PETG. 4 of the 5 levels on the K2 Plus and 1 level on the FLSUN S1 Pro for comparison. There's no real speed advantage with the Delta Motion system when printing standard PETG due to its lower volumetric flow rates. Surprisingly, the surface quality actually turned out nicer on the K2. There was a slight dimensional discrepancy between the two printers, but I couldn't determine which one was off by a fraction of a millimeter. Still, this was a relatively easy print with no issues. For high-speed PLA, the S1 Pro can be much faster, but for everything else, the K2 holds up very well. Comfortable color change. Printing these small multicolor models with hundreds of color changes isn't economical or environmentally friendly. A much more practical use of the CFS is for prints with a sensible number of color changes. Printing the simple 2-color headphone holder hand with automatic color changes was very convenient on the K2 Plus. We didn't have to babysit to watch when the filament needs to be changed manually. Even this dual color triple Specstand only required 13 color changes. Doing those manually would have been a real hassle. These are the kinds of projects where a filament changer makes the most sense in my opinion. And on the upper parts, with their insane number of retractions, the K2 Plus did an excellent job on this tricky yet support-free print. Broken supports, but no broken dreams. I say supportless because supports caused trouble in our next biggest multicolored, heavily supported print, a Pokemon Onix that Levi wanted on his shelf. This was another optimal multicolor print where the color changes were concentrated in a relatively narrow area. However, given the model's size, it still required over 200 changes. The problem wasn't with the CFS this time, but with one of the main tree supports breaking about halfway through this 11-hour print job. We heard the cracking sound, ran to the printer, and quickly decided to stop the print. There was no chance for it to finish successfully without that key support. I think it's a good lesson for both of us, learning from failures, improving, and trying again. We adjusted the tree support style from default to strong, reinforced the skinny prime tower, and switched the infill to 3D honeycomb, which is less prone to catching the nozzle. Then we restarted the print overnight. What a feeling to wake up to the smell of a fresh 3D print in the morning. The stronger supports were a bit of a struggle to remove. They are really strong, but the end result was great. And even the half-finished print made a fun stand for happy. Looking at the print more critically, the support interfaces could be improved as they left marks on both the bottom and top. You don't have to look too closely to spot some pretty obvious Z-banding as well, especially in the lower half of the head. And this is on a fairly forgiving model using PLA. With PETG, Z-banding is even more pronounced. A band you don't want on stage. You can't miss it on this makeup container we printed for my little niece, Levy's sister. Horizontal lines start about 30 millimeters from the bottom, repeating every 6-7 millimeters before stopping near the top. As far as I can tell, they are not caused by a mechanical issue with the lead screws, since multiple test prints showed the banding at different heights. I've read theories that it could be due to temperature fluctuations inside the enclosed printer, possibly when the case cooling kicks in. But I tested with the door both open and closed, even periodically opening it, but the issue persisted and wasn't correlated to the time when I opened the door. Running nozzle PID tuning improved the situation, but I couldn't eliminate it in PETG prints. Interestingly, the same test model printed in standard PLA was free of Z-banding. It's a bit concerning, but I'm confident we'll find the cause and fix for it. I'd be grateful if you'd share your thoughts in the comments below, whether you have the K2 Plus with or without the issue, or insights from your own 3D printing experience. I'd love to hear from you. Most efficient auto refill. On a more positive note, this single color print allowed us to test the auto refill capabilities of the CFS. We loaded an almost empty spool of PETG alongside a full roll using the exact same settings for both. I was pleasantly surprised at how the K2 Plus used up the very last millimeters of the nearly depleted spool before automatically switching to the next roll. Auto refill is implemented much better than on the Anycubic Kobra 3, where almost a meter-long piece of filament is discarded. It's retracted as part of the filament change. Most thorough test. Finally, we printed 9 of these little turtles, 3 on the K2 Plus before the software update, 3 after, and 3 with identical settings on the Anycubic Kobra 3 Combo. We had already compared the waste from default purge settings between the devices, and I measured before and after the firmware update as well. Although the release notes mentioned some optimization in the flushing logic, it didn't increase or decrease the amount of filament waste. However, as you can see in these close-ups, surface quality did improve after the update, though it still hasn't reached the smoothness of prints from the multicolor competitor. Our honest takeaway: I hope I haven't discouraged you from getting this printer. Yes, in our growing arsenal of printers, we can find one that might do a tiny bit better in one area or another, but none are as versatile as the K2 Plus Combo from Creality. Its low-level accessibility and highly serviceable parts appeal to pro users, while the Creality ecosystem makes it easier for beginners to ease into this hobby, more so than any of my other printers. Again, the best word to describe the K2 Plus Combo? Complete. We got ours from geekbuying.com, which offers fast, free shipping and some of the lowest prices, especially with the coupon codes, while still providing the full manufacturer's warranty and every convenience. What I appreciate most is the ability to pay with PayPal, making it the perfect way to use my balance without extra handling or conversion fees. If you'd like to support the channel at no extra cost, consider using our affiliate links below. I'll keep the latest coupon codes updated right next to them. Have you seen our first video on the Creality K2 Plus Combo? If not, this is the next video you should watch. In this other one, we create a lot of fun things using most of the other printers mentioned today. So let's go print 3D. Thank you for watching another Gergo Print 3D video all the way to the end.